Good morning and welcome to Get Real America.
Where we're getting real, we get behind the scenes and give you what is the rest of the iceberg after you see the tip from the rest of the media.
Absolutely. We've started our series on doing a lot of interviews as well, which
Yes.
you won't see anywhere else.
That's right, exclusive stuff. So tell all your friends and tune in or blog in or whatever it is you do.
All the things.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Glad to have you aboard on Hump Day. Here it is, halfway through the week. Coming up day after tomorrow is the big debate with Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker. And Herschel, vehemently denying they've made up another story now. Brittany, about Herschel paying some woman to have an abortion, God knows how many years ago.
Some of this stuff, it's very interesting that it never comes to light until someone runs for office.
Yeah.
So you have to question, number one, what's the intention? Number two, why does this stuff always come out of the woodworks? And here's the other thing. As a country, we are Christian-based. I don't care what anyone says.
Mm-hmm.
We believe in forgiveness and we believe in grace. And for some reason, we do not give anyone grace or the opportunity to be a better person. Someone that was 20 made some mistakes and now they're 45 and you're still holding them to the mistakes they made when they're 20. It's not the right thing.
But it's only from a conservative standpoint. If you made the mistake yesterday and you're a lefty Democrat or something,
it never happened. Bill.
Yeah, it either never happened or it's just one of those things.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear what they both have to say and how it goes. So we'll be excited to follow up with you guys after the debate on that. And always a great time in Savannah.
Mm-hmm.
I love this time of year. This is actually when I moved here, was during this time period with the seafood festival going on, which I think is very exciting. It's a really fun event. I don't even like seafood. So I had a lot of fun. I know. Don't look at me like that. I grew up in the West. We didn't have access to seafood. Therefore, I didn't eat it. And now I'm like,
well, there was a sea there 60 million years ago. Come on.
Yeah, the seafood there is not, it's not fresh, Bill. It's
it's not fresh?
No,
okay.
We're landlocked, so it's not like you guys have in Savannah. So, but that starts, on the 14th, which I think is a fun event for the weekend, along with the Effingham County Fair. Mm-hmm. I love county fairs. I think they're so fun.
But it just depends on, how the seafood is done. I grew up not liking fish very much because when I was growing, we didn't have the filleting ability that they have now. I would usually wind up with a mouthful of bones.
Oh, gross.
And I just couldn't stand that. Always loved shrimp. I tried to like oysters. That never worked out. But I have always loved shrimp. So it is wonderful the way, in different ways they fix it and the different things you can do with it. It's just absolutely wonderful. And now I like, things like catfish and grouper and things that don't really taste, as we say, fishy.
Yeah.
They are really, really delicious stuff, and the way they can do them, whether grill them or blackened or whatever, and things like that. So there's just wonderful, and there's other stuff there besides seafood.
Yes,
yes. You can get
boiled peanuts. I'd never had those either.
Oh,
they're delicious. They are delicious.
And also, some other good healthy stuff like the deep fried Snickers.
Oh yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
So
yes.
You always have those.
Yes, and at the seafood festival they have live music.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure at the county fair. I'm not sure. I'm from the West. We always had a rodeo and a county and live music. So I'm not sure what they have going on in Effingham, but I'm sure it will be a good time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the fairs are always fun. Yeah, they've got the standard things, the tilt-a-whirl, the Ferris wheels, and things like that, and rocket, whatever those things are.
Ever since I turned 30, Bill,
yeah.
I cannot get on rides. I end up so sick. Yeah, and I used to love rides, but me too.
Yeah.
Me too. So no rides for me, Bill, but the kids will love them.
I am anxious to get back down. I hope there wasn't much. I don't know how much damage was done in Orlando. The president went down there last week surveying the damage. But when my wife and I were down there a couple of years ago, went to Harry Potter Land there at the Orlando Park, and they were just finishing up the new that new roller coaster that they have that goes all over. It goes across the river and comes back across, and then goes out to Jacksonville and comes back. I mean, it's just unbelievable right there. But they had some other good ones that were really fun, and I hadn't been on some of the newer roller coasters. Or fun rides like that. They have one that's kind of like a rocket type thing, and you start going up. In the old roller coasters, you went up and up and up and up. This thing has some sort of jet power. So you get about a third of the way up, and this thing starts like it's going downhill. I mean, it's a boom, and you're like, holy jeez. But God, they're fun.
They are fun. I went on one where it went straight up, and then all of a sudden it went straight down, and
Yep.
it was called the Cliffhanger. It's a lagoon in Utah, but it was super fun. I love those rides.
Those are great. Absolutely fantastic.
I'm just getting too old to be on them. It's fine.
Yeah. My wife hates them too.
Does she? Oh,
Yeah,
man.
she won't get on one. And it's not the fact she gets sick. She just, well, what she does, she gets kind of motion sickness type thing. Yeah. So she can't do it.
Yeah. That's too bad because rides are fun. So we have that going on. We also have Oktoberfest happening at Riverside.
Plant Riverside.
Plant Riverside, sorry about that.
Down on River Street in Savannah. And Plant Riverside is this great new hotel development, and it's a combination of hotels, restaurants, and businesses that was done by this wonderful entrepreneur, one of the big hoteliers in the world.
I think his name's Richard Kessler. Is that
Richard Kessler.
Yep.
Yeah, he is quite the. He came here a few years ago and renovated a place and called it the Mansion. He since sold that, but the renovations were absolutely fantastic. Very, very. Now his taste in artwork don't go with mine. It's something is this really weird stuff that I hope it were given to him, but I'm sure he probably paid for it. But in the lobby, not only do they have two grand pianos, they were, if you're not familiar with the term, with the name, but the Börsendorfer. Börsendorfer is to pianos what a custom-built Lamborghini is to cars.
Okay.
It is the top of the line. They don't get any better than a Börsendorfer, and they're like two of those that were in the mansion. There's
Wow.
one at Plant Riverside, and there's usually, they usually have a pianist playing, and it's not one of these electronic things where they've got, the computer is playing it. This is a real live person sitting down there playing the piano, and they are gorgeous.
Yes, and Plant Riverside is beautiful. And the district is also located in Plant Riverside. Just to tie this up in a bow, that is where Herschel and Warnock will be debating.
Woo, send up a flare.
Yes.
So that's coming up day after tomorrow. But the thing that I love about Plant Riverside, you have to go down there if you haven't seen it. The thing that I loved about the way Kessler redid it is that he kept a lot of the original stuff.
Yep.
It was a power plant. The reason that it's named Plant Riverside is because that was the name when it was Savannah Electric and Power Company. Used to be a power plant, and he left you when you go in the lobby. They'll leave some of the stuff. There's some like Lexan flooring where you can see fossils that they discovered while they were renovating this place. Also found some Civil War ordnance that they had to call the bomb squad out to detonate. It was still alive, and that was fun. But they left the control panel. One of the big control panels up, and then they've got this huge model of a dinosaur hanging up in the main lobby that made out of, I guess, it looks like titanium or something like that. And then he's got all these. He's really impressed with. They've got these huge rocks that are actually amethyst, and they're carved out in the middle. And you see these gorgeous stones that he's collected over the years. Just an amazing place. And then these restaurants galore where you can get barbecue, seafood, whatever it is you want, great hamburgers, whatever you want.
Yeah, well, and they also kept the smokestacks.
Yes.
And you can actually eat in one, which I thought was kind of fun and different and unique to the area. And yeah, Plant Riverside, I mean, I've gone to a lot of concerts there, and it's really just livened up that end of the River Street.
Because it was kind of dead at that end, and now it is hopping. We got several rooftop restaurants there as well. So it's really, one of them's Electric Moon, and you just you go up and beautiful view of the river and seeing Savannah, and it's really something.
I watched fireworks on the 4th of July from there, and it was beautiful over the river.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
Can't complain at all. And
good stuff.
The other thing about Plant Riverside is they also have a lot of performers that come. They do the aerial performers in like on Friday and Saturday nights a lot of times. So they have a lot of activities going on down there, which, I mean, I think it's meant for tourists, but us locals, we like to enjoy that stuff too.
Yeah, as we've always said, be a tourist in your own hometown. Go and find out what's going on locally. You spend thousands of dollars going out of town to go someplace that you can do right here and not spend all that money.
Exactly.
And a lot of people are worried about spending money right now.
Oh, isn't that the truth?
Uh-huh.
I heard that our producer's wife actually spent $8 for cream last week. Can you believe that?
$8 for cream?
Yep, for a pint of cream. That is just absolutely ridiculous, Bill.
Well, we're having all sorts of. We still have supply shortages. There was a story about a lady from a bakery that they did. I don't remember where it was, but on Fox and Friends First last week, she was having trouble. She was getting butter.
What are we going to do if we can't get butter? Butter is
Yeah.
essential.
What are we going to do when we can't get food? That's the next step. But you can thank a Democrat.
A brand new carrier.
Yeah.
The most
I think that there's a lot of misinformation going around about what the Democrats actually stand for.
Yeah.
They're for law and order now. I don't know if you got the memo on that.
Yes,
That was
yes.
weird.
All of a sudden, they realized that the old rules for radicals from Saul Alinsky was accuse the other side of what you're doing, and now we see these ads where Stacey Abrams, and we'll be talking about her a little more extensively shortly, but Stacey Abrams is saying how her ads are saying how Governor Kemp's all of the legislation that was passed for our voting laws, so you couldn't cheat anymore, and other things, that the president called Jim Crow was on steroids, or Jim Eagle, and that they moved the All-Star game, and that caused the Major League Baseball to move the All-Star game out of Atlanta, costing all these millions and millions of dollars to the state, and they keep going on about that. No, it was Stacey Abrams and Isaac Warnock. Or Raphael Warnock. Sorry, I worked with a guy named Isaac Warnock,
Okay.
so I'll always call him that. But Raphael Warnock, they were the ones who encouraged Major League Baseball to move the All-Star game. Now, fortunately, we had redemption because we got the World Series. I wouldn't have been surprised if they had decided to play it in Boise, Idaho, or something. But
Right.
but we had the World Series, so that kind of made up for it. But at the time, these were black businesses that were hurt. And all of a sudden, when Stacey realized that she had put her foot in a bucket of it, she was very apologetic and tried to crawfish her way out of it, but she hadn't been able to.
Well, have you ever noticed, Bill, that they always make an issue where there is not one?
Exactly.
And it's, it goes with the voting laws. It goes with, having them move the baseball game because of the racist laws here. I mean, it just seems like, unfortunately for the citizens, it backfires, but it does show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the heartbeat bill was another one where, once a heartbeat is detected, but now Stacey is claiming, from the medical degree that she has, which I think was from Ding Dong School, said that what you're hearing on this sonogram is just sound effects.
It's a made-up sound. I mean,
Yeah,
it's very
it's
strange.
not a real
that-
heartbeat.
Why is that just coming out in the year 2022, Bill?
Who
I mean, it's
knows?
weird. It's very
Science
strange.
deniers.
I mean, that's the thing. I think people need to realize that these people are not doing the right thing, and they're making things up that's not true. And the fact that people believe them, Bill, it breaks my heart that people don't do their research and
No
that
kidding.
they do believe these people when they're straight up lying to us. Like, it's a lie.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
no way
it's a
around
lie.
it. No way
kidding.
around it.
For sure. Well, we'll discuss it. We'll go dive more deeply into that when we come back here on this Wednesday morning.
Yep, we'll be right back.
This is good.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
You and I have the courage to say to our enemies, there is a price we will not pay. There is a point beyond which they must not advance.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. We choose to go to the moon. I can hear you, the rest of the world hears you, and the people who knock these buildings down
not believe that life is so dear and peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery.
The last 3 years, Georgia's been tested in ways we could never imagine. And it fell to Governor Brian Kemp to successfully lead us during these troubling times. Georgia is still first in the nation for business. Our unemployment rate is the lowest in state history. Today, people come to Georgia to succeed, start a business, raise a family. Kemp has always backed the blue, stopping the radical left from defunding local police. He passed a tough new election integrity bill that, as the governor likes to say, made it easy to vote and hard to cheat. And while some during COVID-19 shut down their economy, Kemp kept our schools and businesses open while keeping Georgians safe. A long list of accomplishments: fighting human trafficking, increasing teacher pay, greater access to quality health care. A governor who works for Georgians. All of us. Governor Brian Kemp.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Glad to have you aboard. Here it is, Hump Day, and getting ready for a big weekend, including the Seafood Festival in Richmond Hill, and...
Well, the Warnock debate with Herschel is going to be big, I think, this weekend. But there's so much going on. It's really hard. I don't know that people are going to choose the debate over the Seafood Festival, Oktoberfest, or the Effingham County Fair. I'm just saying. I don't know. There's a lot going on.
If you can't find something to do here this weekend, it's your fault.
Exactly. You should not be
You're
bored.
a dull person.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's not very nice, Bill.
Here.
You know what else isn't nice, Bill?
What isn't nice?
When you continue to lie and gaslight people.
Would that be somebody like a Democrat?
I mean, she's an erotic novelist, is how she got her start.
Oh, her.
Yes. Her name is Stacey Abrams. I think most people are familiar with her.
Uh-huh.
But we have this montage of her not denying the election. Do we have that clip?
I have never denied the outcome. And I do have one very affirmative statement to make. We won.
But I didn't lose. I got the votes. But we won't know exactly how many because of how they cheated.
I did win my election. I just didn't get to have the job. We were robbed of an election.
Using the word rigged, using the word steal, do you think it's dangerous going into 2020?
I don't, because we can actually back it up. And so in response to what I believe was a stolen election, and I'm not saying they stole it from me, they stole it from the voters of Georgia. I spent the interim 10 days between the election and my non-concession day, as we call it. In fact, someone outside asked if I'm ever going to concede. The answer is no. It was not a free and fair election. I think the election was stolen from the people of Georgia. I believe it was stolen from the voters. I just said it can't happen again. Thousands of Georgians had their voices stolen because they were not able to cast ballots, and they cannot be guaranteed that their votes will be counted in 2020 if we don't do this right. I said that the election was stolen from the Georgia voters.
If it looks like it's cheating, it probably is. If it looks like it's rigged, it probably is.
The process that took place during the legislative cycle was one that did not countenance and did not pay attention to the deep and real concerns of those who watched this election be stolen in the state of Georgia. It was stolen from the voters of Georgia. We do not know what they would have done because not every eligible Georgian was permitted to participate fully in the election.
She never denied the election, Bill.
No. It never happened. Remember?
Except for those 20 clips we just saw.
They must think that either that was AI or we have very, very short memories.
Right. And so the interesting thing about Stacey Abrams is she's almost hit a national platform based off of her denying the election against Brian Kemp.
Exactly.
Which, it's interesting that we're having the same lineup as we did, 6 years ago?
Yeah, 4 years ago.
4 years?
Yeah.
4 years. So
hard to believe, but we have the truth.
I mean, the video doesn't lie.
Uh-huh.
And the thing about Stacey is that she continues to gaslight people. She can't ever give enough detail to let you know how that was stolen. And now she's saying, oh, no. It never happened. I never said that. And we had the securest election we've ever had in 2020. It's so weird.
But when Republicans have questioned the 2020 election, suddenly they're kicked off of Twitter and Facebook, and they're put in Instagram, heaven, hell, purgatory, or wherever it is.
Well, I think the other thing is it's something that really could unite us as just Americans of, we've all had questions. Let's look at what we can do to solve this problem and to ensure that we all have faith in the elections. And instead, they try to divide us with it. And then we're like, oh yeah, we get on board with them of like, yeah, we have questions too. And then they're like, no, we have no more questions. Everything's secure. Nothing to see here.
And when you lose faith in your election process, then there's a huge problem. People say, and in fact, that is the reason that we have 2 empty suits up in Washington right now, because so many Republicans failed to show up for the runoff. And the crazy thing we have here in Georgia, and I'd like to fix this, David Perdue won his seat by over 40,000 votes in the general election, but he didn't get 50% or more of the vote. There was a libertarian in there that threw a monkey wrench into it. And every time libertarians come in a close race, the vote that would have gone to the Republican goes to the libertarian.
It's only the Republican that's affected because the libertarians don't vote for Democrats. So
that's exactly right.
It's unfortunate for us that we can't figure that out. But, has it always been that way, Bill? Has there always been a runoff rule here?
Yes.
That's
as far
so
as I know,
weird.
as far back as I can remember. But and I'm not necessarily against runoffs. But when you have that large a margin, and you say, but that still wasn't 50% of the vote, I think there ought to be some sort of a sub-paragraph in there somewhere. We're good at that in politics, of putting in sub-paragraphs and things.
So
it says if you win by more than 20,000 votes or something, you got the nod. You don't have to go through the rigmarole of. And at one point, we were 9 weeks between elections. We've narrowed that down to 4 weeks, but from general election to runoff, that was changed in the legislature. And that was another thing that we're talking about, voter suppression. We had 9 weeks, which was way too long and cost way too much money.
Well, I think that's the other thing, Bill. I think that I don't like the runoff system. And sorry, Georgians, you guys all dislike that I just said that. However, I think that if you're a winner, you're a winner.
We're not the only state that has them.
Well, yeah, but there are fewer states that have runoffs than don't. So there are fewer states that have that don't have runoffs.
Okay, I was not aware. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. So I mean,
learn something new every day.
Well, if you win, you win. It's also like this ranked choice voting. The ranked choice voting makes it so complicated, and it also makes it so everyone's third choice could be the winner. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like if you're running a race, it disenfranchises voters that, to come out a second time to have to vote for someone. I think we have a hard enough time getting people to go out the first time, which is unfortunate, and I think that people should be involved. But to ask them to skip 2 days of work to go vote when they're disenfranchised because their guy won, but now they have to go through this secondary process, which seems just a little bit monotonous.
Yeah, for sure. So there's that. And meanwhile,
it was about a month ago, Bill, when we were invited to an event, and it was for Thrive Express, which we also have an interview with her that will be on our slate in the coming weeks. The executive director, Paula, who is amazing. They had a very successful fundraiser about a month ago, and they also had a guest speaker, and her name was Melissa Coles.
Melissa was an amazing guest, and had the audience in the palm of her hand, telling this horrendous story of how she got involved in getting advice for getting an abortion or not to get an abortion. And it turns out that she followed her heart, and she followed some of the people who stand outside of the Planned Parenthood. And when people are walking in and are escorted in by whoever, they try to dissuade them from doing it. Hey, listen. And the word she heard was, "Your baby has 10 fingers and 10 toes."
Who knew that would make such a difference in someone's life? Like just that phrasing.
Just that phrase. And she kept thinking about that and decided she wasn't going to get an abortion. But she did it almost at the 11th hour.
Yeah, and she did a documentary called I Lived on Parker Avenue, which Parker Avenue is where that abortion clinic was located. Yeah. It's no longer there, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But she kind of goes through the documentary, and the great thing about that story is that it's not just her story. It's the story of the parents that adopted her child, and also the child himself, and just their story together, which was kind of a beautiful thing. And one of the things that I remember about that documentary was that they had given her a book, Melissa Coles, from people that knew the baby that she gave up and what an impact he had made on their lives. And so they thanked her for choosing life, and just all the ways that he had made an impact throughout his life.
You know, it's really not a new concept. It wasn't about abortion, but it was about you know, the book. The movie. It's a Wonderful Life. That they play ad nauseum every Christmas.
Christmas, yep.
But it was a box office bomb. It did not do well when it first came. The Jimmy Stewart movie, but it goes through, if you hadn't been born, what would have happened. And he is taken by an angel and shown what would have happened had he not been there. Had he not saved, because he saved a life. There were other things that didn't happen because he wasn't there, and he was shown that by the angel.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting because one of my cousins, she watches that every Christmas. It's her favorite movie. So it's interesting to hear you say that it bombed in the box office, but has become such a popular movie, especially around Christmas. So let's take a look at this story of this wonderful lady who came to see us. Yeah, and it's a special feature, so it's a little bit longer of a clip, so we hope you enjoy it. It was really fun for us to go and meet her. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview with us. It's very exciting. And I just kind of wanted to start with your story in the beginning of it. You ended up doing a documentary and kind of got involved in this movie. So tell us a little bit about that.
The documentary titled I Live on Parker Avenue started when my daughter was 10 years old, and she's 20 now.
Oh my gosh.
It was a passion project for the filmmakers. It was about 5 years in the making, and many years in actually getting it out there and spreading the word before the release of it. But the documentary is not my story, but it's actually 3 stories altogether, because you get the story of the birth mom, which is me, and then you get David's story, which is my birth son, and then you also get his mom and dad. So you've got 3 beautiful stories all wrapped up into one 30-minute documentary.
And it was so amazing to see just how grateful they were when they were able to have a son, because I did see the birth mom story, which was so sad, but then to be able to give her a gift like that, how did that make you feel?
I wish that I could say that it felt wonderful, but when you carry a child and you bond with that child and you deliver that child, handing a child over to someone is the hardest thing pretty much that anyone can go through. So your natural instinct is to grab that baby and protect it forever and never let it go. So this is the hardest thing I've ever done. But I know I did what was right for him, not me, but for him.
So your story does start a little bit tragically because you were going to get an abortion. So what made you think that was your option?
When I was 18, I found myself in an unplanned pregnancy. And back then, I won't say what year exactly, but back then, you didn't have internet unless you worked in an office. You didn't have cell phones, so you didn't have resources at your fingertips back then. So back then, either you parented your child or you got an abortion before it becomes a baby, knowing now, of course, that it's a baby at moment of conception and not a clump of cells. But when you're young and 18 and naive and scared, and you've got someone that's not supporting you to keep that child, then it's a lot of pressure, and the easiest solution at that time as I was told, was let's go ahead and get rid of it now before it becomes a problem.
So was this just a discussion between you and the father, or did you have this discussion with your family?
No one knew I was pregnant. All the way through my pregnancy, the only one that knew I was pregnant was the birth father.
Wow. How did you keep that a secret?
I get asked that a lot. And the only thing, because I've been about the same height and weight.
You're very
my whole life.
Small gal.
So they, when I reference that, I reference David and Saul because, and of course not in these words, but David had asked God one time, what's up with these spiders? They're not good for anything. And God says to him, one day you will thank me for this creature. Well, that day came when David was running from Saul. And the soldiers checked all the caves except for one. And the one that they didn't check was the one that David was in and had the cobwebs over it. And the soldier said, oh, nobody can be in there because there's cobwebs. Of course, the language is very different.
Yeah, yes.
But so that, he was able to thank God for that creature. It saved his life. And so in my personal opinion, God put cobwebs over everyone's eyes so that I can get through what I needed to get through and do what I needed to do.
So you tell us the story about going into the abortion clinic.
When you go into an abortion clinic, at least at that time, they protect you when you're coming in. So they rushed out to our vehicle and they put a blanket around my head and a radio here and a radio here to try to drown out the sidewalk advocates that were on the other side. Throughout all the chaos and all the noise and the rock music blaring in my ears, I heard this one lady say, your baby's got 10 fingers and 10 toes and you're going to kill it. And I tried to lift my head up, and because the blanket was draped over me like this, and they pushed my head back down, that I thought they were doing that to protect me. I wouldn't know till years later it's to protect them and their bottom dollar. Because their whole goal is to get you in that door, get your money, take the life of your child, and then you can leave. So that stuck in my mind, the 10 fingers and 10 toes as I was entering the building. And then once I got in the building, it was rush, rush, rush. You give them the money very first thing. And you sign this very short piece of paper. I think it was one side, maybe that side on the other, if I remember correctly. And I was very quickly rushed back. They gave me a little white cup with a blue pill inside. And the nurse says, take this and put this right on that table. And I said, yes, ma'am, because that's how I was raised. Yes, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. So I did as I was told. I took the pill, got in the gown, and I lay down on the cold silver table. And as I was laying there, that your baby's got 10 fingers and 10 toes kept racing through my mind. And as I was lying on the table, my head kept falling to the right. And I could see my reflection in it because I call it the silver room. There's no pictures, no photos, and everything's silver in the room. So you can see yourself. And so my head falls to the right. And all of a sudden, this voice, an audible voice, came through. And it says, get up. Get up. It's not too late. I'm thinking, what kind of pill did they just give me, right?
Yes.
But the voice wasn't angry at me. It was almost as if it was pleading with me to get off that table. And just seconds later, the abortionist comes in. And when he comes in, he doesn't speak to me. He comes in, washes his hands, puts his gloves on, sits on the little silver stool, slides over to me. And right as his hand brushed up against my left leg, I said it really quickly, and I said, I just can't do this. And instead of him saying, that's great. Well, do you know about other resources, other options? No. He got angry. And I didn't understand why he was so angry. He just took my money. I knew I wasn't getting my money back. He rips his gloves off, stands up, turns around, starts to walk out, drops his gloves in that little silver basket, never looks back at me and leaves. And nurse doesn't come back in, doctor doesn't come back in. So I hurried up and got dressed and I ran out the nearest exit door. And as I was leaving the exit door, a lot of the sidewalk advocates that were out there, because there was a whole bunch of different kinds out there, some aggressive, some just plain, different levels. Yeah. But I was called, baby murderer and several other things. And, I didn't want to say I didn't do it to somebody, anybody, but I was scared and I was afraid, and I just ran to my car and started on the way back, still pregnant.
So you went by yourself. No one went with you. No one drove you.
The birth father.
Okay. And how did he feel about the fact that you didn't get the abortion?
Well, we didn't have a pleasant conversation on the way back.
That was really hard. So were you supported through the pregnancy by him, or?
Well, I don't want to talk about the birth father too much because he's not here
That's fair.
to speak. But I didn't really know what I was going to do. So on the on the way back throughout everything else that was going on, I am sitting there thinking, what am I going to do? And so I get home and I was blessed with a UTI infection. And people go, wait a minute, you were blessed with a UTI infection.
No one says that.
Yeah,
no one
but
says
I was. Because when I went to the hospital because of that UTI infection, there was a social worker and her name was Rhonda Smith. And she was my angel and she still is today. I love her very much. And I looked at her and I usually have a pretty good gut instinct. And I looked at her in the face and I said, so if I tell you anything, you can't tell anybody, right? She goes, nobody, not without your permission. So I shared my story and what was going on. And she looked at me and she said, have you ever thought about adoption? And I looked at her and I said, you mean give my child to somebody I don't know? And she goes, yes, hon, but think about where you were just at not too long ago. Think about that alternative. You have a chance to choose life, to give him a life that maybe he can't have right now. And so I said, well, give me some time to think about that. And I did. And I got back with her very shortly. And she connected me with Kirsch and Kirsch PC, which is the adoption attorneys that facilitated everything. They stayed with me from the moment we made contact. And I'm much older than that now. And we're still in contact today. I mean, so they're not just, oh, a lot of people are like, well, you only care about the baby. You only care about the mom. And that's simply not true.
So did you get to choose who would be adopting as a child?
I did. And they provided me with several, what's called Dear Mom letters. But they all read the same. We do this, we don't do that. But I wasn't looking for perfection. And we never missed church. They're perfect.
Yeah.
That's not what I was looking for. I wanted someone that was down to earth, that would do things with him that I wanted to do, like fishing, going four-wheeling, just outdoorsy and just hands-on. And I got their letter, and it read so different than all the other letters. And as soon as that letter, I hadn't opened it yet. There are so many God incidences in the story. I hadn't even read it yet. When it was in my hand, I felt this go through me, and I just knew before I even opened it, this was going to be his family. And as I'm sitting there reading that letter, you can't help but fall in love with Susan, because Susan is just, she's amazing, and she's been through so much, so much. And I just knew that this was his mom and dad.
That's wonderful. And so did you stay in contact with them throughout?
No. I had the option of getting monthly updates, and we can do that for 1 year, or we could do it for 18 years. And as I thought about that, as wonderful as I would have loved to have, done that for 18 years, I don't believe that I would have been able to move on in my life. And I really don't believe that they would have been able to move on in their life, feeling kind of like they're reporting back to me every month.
Yeah.
And so I thought if I got a year's worth of updates and photos and letters each month, then that would let me know what kind of life he was going to have. And I joked with God. And people say, you shouldn't joke with God. Why not? He's got a sense of humor. He made me.
Yeah, exactly.
So I kind of halfway jokingly said, Lord, if I pick the right family, let the first picture I get be of David at the ocean, because I have never been to the ocean at this point. I've never seen the ocean, and I love the ocean. Is so beautiful. And the very first update I got was the letter and several pictures of him at the ocean. I didn't even tell Susan or Jimmy or anybody that. It was him in the ocean and sand with the letter.
So did that make you feel like you had made the right decision?
Yes.
And so fast forward in your life, you had another child.
I did.
How did that impact you giving up David and how you mothered your second child?
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine.
I think that with the loss of him, that it made me hold on to my daughter tighter than I should. So, but I mean, me and my daughter are super, super bonded and super close. But I think I held on to her a little too tight.
So do you think it changed the way you value motherhood?
Yes.
And does your daughter have a relationship with David?
No.
No. And do you still have a relationship with David?
It's a cordial. I want more than he wants, but that can always change.
Yeah.
And when I speak and we go around the United States, and pretty soon it's going to be around the world, that because of Lifemark, that when I speak, I mean, I make sure people understand that it's not a perfect package and it's not wrapped up in a bow, but it is definitely the better option. The adoption option is the better option. If you cannot parent, the adoption option is definitely the better option.
So how has Lifemark changed your life?
It's been like a whirlwind. I had actually sent the documentary to Kirk Cameron twice, and he never responded. And I don't know why I felt compelled to do that. I just did. And he probably thought I was a crazy fangirl or something, because I'm sure he gets a lot of that. And one of his friends had actually saw the documentary and sent it to Kirk and said, "Hey, you got to watch this. It's about adoption." And he had told his wife about it. Well, adoption is very close to their heart. His wife, Chelsea's adopted. And I think 4 of their children, is that correct? 4 of their children's adopted. So it's very close to his heart. And he took it to the Kendrick brothers and he was really excited. He goes, "I think I want to do a movie on this. What do you think?" And the Kendricks are like, "Not only do we like it, we love it. We want to be part of it." And before you know it, Lifemark comes out.
So you were on board with the movie from the beginning?
No.
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 No. Okay.
With either, actually.
Okay.
I was I'm actually very easy to work with, because you wouldn't believe that working with me with I Lived on Parker or Lifemark, because when I was approached to do the documentary, when we were going to meet in real time, and I didn't want to do that. I didn't want everyone seeing me at my weakest and my most vulnerable moment. I'm going to be judged by everybody. And my husband, who I've gone on 16 years, he's like, "But babe, if it even saves one life, is it not worth it?" And so, I agreed to do the documentary. And then I get the phone call for Lifemark a few years later. And I actually hung up on somebody, not once, but twice, but I'm not going to say who it was. And finally, they reached out to me, all of them at the same time. They're like, "Hey," they're like, "can we please talk?" And I'm like, "Okay." And so we're talking, and they probably thought I was a jerk at the beginning. And but I told them, I said, "But I don't want to lose what I've worked so hard for, because I've been speaking about the beauty of adoption since I Lived on Parker Avenue came out." And they go, "Well, we don't want to stop that. We want to encourage that. We want to encourage you to continue speaking. We want to encourage you in your ministry. And we just want to help you expand that." And they think, doing a movie is going to expand that platform. And again, here, as I still could, "May I please just think about it?" And they said, "Sure, absolutely. Just give us a call whenever you feel up to it." And my husband, again, he's like, "Hey, I don't think you understand what's going on right here." And that they're like, "We get thousands of requests a year. Please do a movie on this. Please do a movie on that." He's like, "We're coming to you saying we want to do a movie." And he's like, "If it helps one person, again, is it not worth it?"
So what changed? You had sent the documentary to him twice, and then when they called you, you were reluctant.
Well, when I sent it to her, it wasn't because I wanted him to do a movie. I just wanted his support, because if I got his support, got behind the documentary, I thought that would help expand the speaking platform and help expand that documentary out to more people, because we wanted to be a resource in every pregnancy center, every school, anywhere that would be needed.
So as you've gone through this process, and we just saw that Roe v. Wade was overturned.
And 24.
Yes, very important day. And, now we're seeing kind of the craziness on both sides. And what do you think is the biggest misconception when people go in to have an abortion?
I'm not sure I understand 100% what you mean.
So why do you think young women feel like that's their only option?
I think that the majority of the times when women go in, they're scared, number one. Secondly, I don't feel that they have the support of the father. And I don't mean this in a negative way, because what I hear a lot of is the men will say, I will support you no matter what. And that sounds great in theory, but it's not.
No, it's you make the decision because I don't have to.
Exactly. So we want to change that narrative to where instead of men saying that, they're saying, okay, honey, I know this was not planned. I know this is scary, but let's think about this. What would work best for us? Should we parent this child? Should we place this child for adoption? But the most important thing that we want is for them to choose life. Because every life is valuable and every life has a purpose and every life is important.
So in the work that you've been doing, do you get letters and things from people that you've been able to help support through not having an abortion and being able to choose life?
Yes, ma'am, I do. I actually have a motivational wall in my office and it's full. And I told my husband, I said, you're going to have to help me do something. I don't know where I can put this or put that or put this, but it keeps me motivated and it keeps me wanting to do more. And I want to help as many people as I possibly can. And there was baby girl number 1 that was saved. It was so beautiful. I stayed with her during her entire pregnancy, pretty much on a daily basis. And when the baby turned, after she had the baby, everything finally calmed down. And she invited my husband and I for her birthday, her first birthday in Indianapolis, Indiana. And so my husband and I went and attended baby girl number 1's birthday. And it was one of the most special days of my life.
That's amazing. And so she kept the baby and
she did.
Good.
It is. And right now, and I know it's not a big number, but right now there's been 15 people or babies saved from abortion. And that may not sound like a lot, but every life is a generation and multiple generations. So, and I'm not going to stop. I'm just getting started. I'm not done yet.
So what is your goal with this movie and like what's beyond this movie?
I don't know what's beyond the movie yet, but my goal for the movie is that it touches people in a positive way because I think everyone will be able to relate to somebody in that movie. And there is an abortion scene in the movie, but it's not graphic whatsoever. And it's done in a very, very tasteful way. And it's very brief. It's just, you get the gist of it, but it's not graphic. So it's kid friendly because I had some ladies that came to one of the early screenings in Indiana. And she's like, well, we wanted to scope it out before we brought our kids. And she goes, we're coming back to see it again. And she has smaller kids.
That's awesome. So did you get a lot of say in what happened in the movie or how it was done?
I didn't have the final say over anything, but they did consult with me a lot. And they said, okay, how accurate is this? Should we add this or should we delete this or not put this in there? So I was able to freely express myself and they were so generous. Kurt, Alex, Steven, Shannon, Kevin Peoples, all of them. They were all just wonderful and so considerate of everyone's feelings, everyone that was involved in the movie.
It's amazing. So this has been a good experience.
Yes, it's been a wonderful experience.
And when does the movie come out?
September 9th, tomorrow.
That's very exciting. And where are you going to be?
I will be back home tomorrow. Finally, I'm starting to miss home, so I'll be back home tomorrow. And what our plans are for opening weekend is my mom lives in an apartment area for not old people, but older, a little bit older people. And so my husband and I are going to take my mom and several of her friends, and we're going to go watch Lifemark.
Oh, that's awesome. And so is it out in theaters? Is it?
It was 1,500 theaters starting tomorrow. And if anybody wants to know if it's playing near them, all they have to do is go type in lifemarkmovie.com, put in your zip code, and it will show the nearest theater by you.
Perfect. I love that. And just to wrap things up, what is the one message you would tell someone that is like, I'm going to get an abortion?
If they're dead set that they're going to go get an abortion, I would just encourage them to watch I Lived on Parker Avenue just so that they can see how one life can change so many in the world. And their baby is so important and it's so valuable. And I just would encourage them to choose life, whether they parent or whether they adopt. Just choose life. 9 months is a small sacrifice to make to save a life.
You have been so generous with your time, and I just want to thank you. And your story is amazing. I did watch your documentary and I did cry. I was like, oh my goodness, this is such a powerful story. And I think a lot of young girls are lied to about what abortion is and what it looks like.
Yes.
And just the misconception that it is a clump of cells. I mean, I think we still hear that, and science has definitely taught us that that's
Well,
not
yeah,
true.
she could go to another planet and find plant life, and they come back and go, we found plant life. Yes, there's life. Well, what about the moon? If we're following the science, right?
That's a great question. I don't know what is going on with people, especially in these university atmospheres. They've definitely indoctrinated women to think that.
I was getting ready to say, I can tell you exactly what the problem is. The teachers, the way, not all the teachers, but so many of the teachers are so far left, and they have brainwashed our children. And one of the things that I want to do, and I if I'll be able to do it, that I hope to be able to make a difference in this, because if we can vote in everything else, why can we not vote in the teachers? We have a right to know who's teaching our children. We have a right to say who's teaching our children. And I don't know how I'm going to do that, or if that's part of my plan, but I'm working on it. I have been talking to people about that.
Okay, I've never heard that suggestion, and I'm heavily involved in politics, so I actually really love that idea. I think that that's brilliant, and I would love to keep in touch with you and figure out how you're going to do that, because
I don't know either yet.
well,
Whatever you tell me.
yes. Well, I'm sure you're going to figure it out. You've done an amazing job, and I love your story, and I think that people are going to be impacted, and you're going to save many more lives just by telling your story.
Hey, well, I'm just.
Well, thanks for joining us today,
Thank you.
Melissa Coles. It was great.
Thank you.
Isn't she just a wonderful human?
What a remarkable lady, and what a remarkable story. And it just goes to show how many kids have we lost because of this, in the range of like 60 million since that hideous, wicked decision of Roe v. Wade that was actually another one of those, you talk about gaslighting.
Yeah.
That was another story that was actually gaslighted to the Supreme Court. The woman who was forced into doing this actually came forth, years later and saying, I was pressured into doing this and paid to go before the court and
she became
tell this cockamamie story.
Well, and she became very, very pro-life after that.
She did. Oh, yeah.
So Melissa Cole's, her movie that came out was about her life was called Lifemark. It came out in September. If you guys have the ability to see it, look for it on Amazon, on Google. I believe that they have a website as well that you can view that movie. And it was a really touching story. And just to hear her talk about what her goals are for the future, I think that was something that impressed me. And she's an out-of-the-box thinker, which I really love. Visionary.
I love to do public speaking, and I've been to several National Speakers Association meetings, mostly on the regional level, but I went to one of the national conventions some years back and met a wonderful lady by the name of Joy, and she lives in Charlotte, and she invited us up for a weekend when my wife and I were up there, when I went to the North Carolina chapter of the National Speakers Association, and she invited us over to her house for breakfast, and then go to church with them one Sunday. And she had a picture of her daughter. She actually met her daughter at the convention. Her daughter was 14 years old, but her daughter was adopted.
Oh, wow.
And she was one of those who was about to be aborted. Went to these OBGYNs, and the youngest guy there, all the other doctors were tied up, and he brought this lady in, and he said, if you really want to have an abortion, okay, but I don't do them. My partners do, but I don't want any part of it. If you will, he said, if you will let me, I will treat you for free. If you will let me bring your child into the world and put him up for adoption, there'll be no medical. I'll take care of all medical expenses. She did, and she had this beautiful 14-year-old daughter she introduced to me, who was a kind of a mini stock car racer. There's something above go-karts and below regular cars, but she was a champion stock car racer. She was a concert cellist.
Oh, wow.
And this is another person that it was about to be destroyed and not exist.
Yeah, and, we have to wrap up here, but I think the biggest thing for me is when Melissa Cole said her message is, choose life.
How many? Who have we lost? What great engineers, doctors, social workers, whatever, have not been born because I don't know why we're so enamored with abortion, why people want to kill their child, and when so many people want babies and they could have the kid and put them up for adoption.
Well, like Melissa and I talked about, it's a lot of indoctrination of girls.
It is.
And the lack of support from men. So I think that there's a lot we can work on. And, Melissa Coles is an inspiration, and we're happy that she was able to do this interview with us. And we want to thank you guys.
We're happy you joined us.
Yes.
We'll see you tomorrow for the Thursday edition.
Yep. Follow us on YouTube, Vimeo, GRA News Media, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Mm-hmm.